Today on Bench Briefs, we're looking at a significant case from the federal court that touches on immigration law and constitutional rights in Canada. The case is Canadian Immigration Lawyers Association v. Canada, specifically the Citizenship and Immigration Department, decided in 2026. This case raises important questions about who can challenge government immigration policies and how those policies impact fundamental rights protected by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So, what's this case about? The Canadian Immigration Lawyers Association, or CILA for short, is a professional group representing immigration lawyers across the country. They brought a legal challenge against the federal government's Citizenship and Immigration Department. Their goal was to challenge certain immigration procedures and policies that they argued were not only unfair, but potentially illegal and unconstitutional. More specifically, they wanted the court to look at how these policies affected the rights of immigrants, particularly rights related to life, liberty, and security of the person. CILA wasn't just advocating for individual clients here. Instead, they wanted to assert what's called standing to bring this constitutional challenge on behalf of the broader community of immigrants and immigration lawyers. Standing is a legal concept that determines who has the right to bring a case before the court. In other words, can CILA, as an organization, step into court to challenge government action that impacts immigrants' rights? This is a crucial question because it affects who can hold the government accountable. The case involved detailed questions about how certain immigration statutes should be interpreted and applied. It also raised the issue of whether some immigration practices violated the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The Charter is a cornerstone of Canadian law that protects fundamental rights like life, liberty, and security of the person. These rights are especially important in immigration cases where government decisions can have profound effects on people's lives. At the heart of the case were three main legal questions. First, did CLA have the legal standing to bring this constitutional challenge? Second, how should the relevant immigration laws be properly interpreted and applied in this context? And third, did the immigration procedures and policies in question infringe upon the Charter, rights to life, liberty, and security of the person? The federal court had to carefully consider whether an organization like CILA could represent the public interest and the interests of immigrants generally, even if individual immigrants themselves were not directly named in the case. This is a significant issue because if courts limit standing too much, it can prevent important challenges to government policies that affect large groups of people. On the interpretation of immigration statutes, the court examined the language of the laws and how they were being implemented in practice. The question was whether the government's procedures aligned with the legal requirements set out in these statutes, or whether they went beyond what was authorized by law. Most importantly, the court looked at whether these immigration practices violated the Charter. The rights to life, liberty, and security of the person are fundamental protections, and any government action that potentially threatens these rights must be carefully scrutinized. For example, certain detention practices or delays in processing immigration claims could raise serious charter concerns. Why does this case matter? Well, immigration law affects thousands of people in Canada every year, and the policies set by Citizenship and Immigration Canada have real, tangible impacts on individuals and families seeking safety, opportunity, or a new life here. This case highlights the role that lawyers and legal organizations can play in challenging government policies to ensure they respect constitutional rights. Additionally, the decision on standing could shape how future constitutional challenges are brought in Canada, especially in areas like immigration, where individual claimants might face barriers to accessing the courts. If organizations like CILA are granted standing, it opens the door for broader public interest litigation that can hold government accountable and protect vulnerable populations. Finally, this case underscores the ongoing tension between government authority in immigration matters and the protection of fundamental rights. It reminds us that even in complex administrative systems, The Charter remains a vital safeguard against unfair or unlawful treatment. Thanks for listening to this episode of Bench Briefs. Join us next time for another dive into the cases that shape Canadian law. Until then, take care.